Thanks, Denver. Thanks for the opportunity to share with everyone our Swans journey, our journey from and our transformation from being a very narrow, focused traditional football club to a broad community enabler, and from where we started to where we are at our journey, and we've still got a way to go. So the background is where we've started from. When I started 3 years ago, I spent some time with our board trying to explain where things were failing. We had to understand inherently what the problems were in order to create some opportunities. So a background of our football club, a traditional football club, is there's a long, rich history in the Waffle. Our club was formed in 1934. Most of the other clubs were formed in the last 2 centuries ago, in the 1800s, some are 125 years old. We have latent support at our club. There's a whole lot of people through that historical connection have connection to our football club, but aren't engaged with it anymore. We have over 20,000 people connecting up with us in Facebook. We have countless number of people that will drive past our venue at Still Blue Oval in Bassendean along Guildford Road there that would have some fond memories being involved at the stadium with their parents, with their family, with their friends in the past, but don't stop the vehicle and go and visit now. So we have a disconnect. We have an old business model that frames what we do based on sponsorship and signs. That's what we've been doing for the last 50, 60 years, selling sponsorship and signs. The world around us massively changed within 30 years ago when the West Coast Eagles came in, and I don't know how many times I've heard it, they've come in and destroyed the Waffle, destroyed Swan District Football Club, but that was a massive change to our operating model. We needed to adjust. We have declining numbers and sliding relevance. Our attendances continue to slide. TV audiences continue to slide. Membership continues to slide. So it's pretty obvious we needed to change. We've morphed into a very narrow audience. Our audiences are really framed around white men over 60 years of age. And they're people that have been historically connected with the club as a traditional football club in the past. There's just never been that, there's not been that new audience that's following. So it's traditionally been framed around white men over 60 years of age, something that we needed to change. So all sports are really framed around participation pathways and premierships. Pathways, talent development. They really see their mantra and their remit getting more people playing the game, creating opportunities for talented kids to play at the highest particular level, and with clubs winning premierships. I call it the 3 Ps. It's a very narrow focus on how we see the world, and all sports are very similar. In the last 30 years, I think that's even been constrained even more, because the focus primarily for sporting clubs, no matter what shape or size ball, has been around how do we produce the next AFL athlete? How do we produce the next Olympian? How do we produce the next Australian athlete? So it's focused around pathways, talent. So there's a whole lot of energy and resources put around how do we create an environment that we can produce better players through coaches, through better umpires, and that's sort of all of a sudden the purpose of a sporting club, which was very broad in the past, has all of a sudden become very narrow. So the challenge we've got is how do we change? So this is the start of our journey. So we've reset our purpose from being a very narrow focused football club to one that builds community and develops people. That frames and is the foundation of everything we do at our club now. We're helping build a community where everyone belongs, matters and contributes. We're helping develop people to be the very best they can be. But our vision is to be a well-connected and community-engaged sporting club that improves people's lives. I underline that, improves people's lives. So everything we do within our club has to have some reason, some benefit of the outcome being improving people's lives. If it doesn't fit into that and it slips back into the traditional way of running a sporting club, we ain't funding it, we ain't doing it. It's got to comply with how can we genuinely show people that we're improving people's lives. If we can do that and do it really, really well, we become relevant. If we can't do that and we continue to slip back into the old ways, again, that relevance, as we've shown all the empirical evidence, all the metrics showing that our relevance is sliding away. If we can become relevant, we then, as an extension, become financially sustainable. Our values, we act with integrity. Everyone matters. Now, inclusion to us, we all know what inclusion means. Inherently, we know what it means. But there's a lot of people out there that don't know what these words mean. We need to spell it out to them. So for us, we break it down really, really simple. Everyone is welcome at Swan District's football club, no matter what shape or size you are, no matter what colour you are, whatever sexual preference you are, whatever religious background you may be, everyone is welcome at Swan District's football club. We need to break it down so people understand that we are truly an inclusive club. And that comes more than words. It comes from actions, and you'll see a little bit later how that plays out with us. We want to raise the bar. We want to create an environment where people can be the very best they can be. Whether they're playing, or whether they're volunteering, or whether they're coaching, or they're administrating, or any other extension to our community programs, they can be the very best they can be. And we fly together. So our value proposition, and this is the benefit of sport. As Nelson Mandela said, sport has the power to unite people in a way little else can. Sport can create hope. It speaks to people in a language they understand. Football, Australian rules football within Western Australia, is a universal language. We all get football. Now, whether you like football or not, you can't avoid it. It's in your face. It's there. So we know who a Nick Nat is, whether we follow the West Coast Eagles or follow football. So for us, it's a language. It's a language we use to connect with people, to start a conversation. If we can start a conversation, we can then start an engagement. We can start something that's meaningful, and that will play out as some of the things I'm showing. So this is really, really important. It's important not just for football, it's important for sport, because if sport can become more inclusive, more empowering, more enabling, and sport can help people make good decisions within their own lives and their own challenges that they have, it can play a very powerful role, because sport is invasive. Most people are connected to sport in one shape or another, whether as a participant, an active participant, or a supporter, or just following it within the media. So our community touch points are Aboriginal peoples, young peoples, people with disability, cold communities, and seniors, and that's in relation to that loneliness space. So at the moment, because this has been a transformation for us, it's a long journey for us. For the moment, we've been really active in the Aboriginal space, the young people space, and the people with disability. We are still morphing into cold and seniors. So in our journey so far to date, we've been using the conversation. So how do we transform all of our people to buy into this journey here, to accept who we are as a club and what role they play in our club? Conversation. There's so many conversations we've been having with so many people so they understand who we are and what we do. Educate, energise and mobilise. So this conversation is the education part, to explain to people the role we can play in improving people's lives, what we can do. If we can educate them and they can buy into the message and own the message and own a part of clubs, and that's that connection people have with sporting clubs, they feel that sense of ownership, and that's where the brands of sport become so strong, can become so powerful, especially if there's other messages driving that, not just success on the field or on the court. And then we can energise our people and mobilise them. We can create strategies that we can get as many people as possible connected to the club out there, selling the message and connecting with the community, building a better community. And we talk about people within our club, not just our players. We would have about 90 female players, about 90 male players. We have our staff, we have countless volunteers, we have our board. As an extension, we have the junior football clubs that we connect with. As an extension, we have the community organisations that we connect with. So all of a sudden, we have lots of different possible touch points to community through mobilising our people. So when I keep referring to our people, it's a collective approach. So if we can find strategies to mobilise more and more people, we have more and more foot soldiers out there building this better community for us all. If all of sport can do that, it becomes mighty powerful, very, very powerful. And building partnerships. So part of this whole process is ensure that we're not doing it by ourselves. We have funding partners, a lot of LGAs we connect with, state government. We have a lot of commercial partners that in the past used to connect with us with science and sponsorship. All of a sudden now we're talking to them a whole different language, and they like this language because they see themselves playing a role in building and improving their own communities that they belong to. So this is our logic model, and I'm sure you've all seen logic models before, but the impact side here is where we focus. Traditionally for sports, it's outputs. Traditionally for sports, WA Football Commission, absolutely. Traditionally for sports, participation, how many AFL players can be drafted. So that's a very simple metric. So, and participation plays just the pure nature of sport and teams is inclusive in its nature. But we see this as, we see this here as a very narrow view. So that means all of a sudden you're playing in the first three areas here. We want to be playing in these bottom two areas. Impact, personal, social, community impact. If I give an example, for us, sense of belonging. For us, sense of self-worth, resilience. How can we enable people to make better decisions for themselves? How can we enable people to own their own decisions? So we start with that. So if one of our staff comes up to us and says, well, we've got this great idea here, I'll give an example, Brightest Minds. We call it, it's a program that works and engages with Aboriginal teenagers that are shown that they're at risk from disconnecting from community. So they've got this great program. They've got a proposition to go to Police WA in order to get some funding. And I say, okay, well that's fine. It looks all good. How does it affect here, the impact? So then we work back from the impact. The outcomes would be employment. It would be cultural awareness. The outputs would be participation. Then all of a sudden, that changes the shape of what this Brightest Minds program looks like. What does it look like that's going to achieve all the way up to here? Eventually, we need to show that it's creating a sense of belonging, a sense of self-worth. And what we find is some of the young girls that have been involved in this program have participated in the program. All of a sudden, we've created opportunities for them to do some casual work at our home game days or at our bar upstairs. And then all of a sudden they're starting to feel, well, they've got some worth, that they can contribute to community. All of a sudden that sense of belonging, that sense of connection, because then all of a sudden we've got all of our wider volunteers, our wider supporters that are up there speaking and engaging with them as they're buying their sausage sizzle, as they're buying their can of Coke. So that has that connection, that sense of belonging to something bigger than themselves, and more importantly, sense of self-worth. They've got to they can contribute to community. So that's our logic model which drives everything we do. And some of the examples of some of the programs that we run with, we're up in the Pilbara as well. We have staff operating in 4 communities, Roebourne, Port Hedland, we have Newman and Onslow. In Port Hedland we run a REACH program, partnering with the Hedland Senior High School. We have over 100 teenage girls at risk. We have a special breakout room. We have 4 staff that work really, really closely with them to help build attendances. And the attendances go up. It's great output. But again, the metric that we're focused on is the impact. We have our annual Count Me In Day. I see Hayden over in the corner there, who's actively involved with us as well. We get involved with the All Ability football program. I think there's 10 teams out there. We bring 2 or 3 different games during the course of each of our seasons, and we have them involved with playing beforehand. We treat the whole day as a celebration of inclusion. It's a wonderfully successful day. We just had it last weekend, and it brings so many smiles to not only the people that we involve in the day, people with disability, But our people, our Swans people, which is the broader cohort, just love this day. The smiles and the welcoming environment that we create and that they're a part of, that's some of the actions that we can see this transformation take shape. They can see that they're a part of what the platform that we're providing to the wider community. School inclusion programs, we work closely with Cyril Jackson Secondary College, the Education Support Centre. We have our players and staff will go out and run programs within the school. Some of the participants from those programs will come out to our club, as they've done there, and run some sessions. We also have a all-ability disco that goes on, I think, Monday morning, and Wednesday morning would be the all-ability karaoke. We have a homeless, started off, the intent was a homeless breakfast. It's morphed into a community breakfast because we wanted to make sure it's inclusive. So we start that just before either the karaoke or the disco, and the participants, and there's 50 to 100 that turn up to those regularly, come along for their breakfast, together with people that may just need help that are there, and together with other people from within the club. It's an all-inclusive approach every Wednesday morning we do. This is an example of the integrated football. Last Saturday it was North Beach against Coolbenia. It's a wonderful, wonderful celebration, and our supporters love seeing integrated football at our games. We're the only club that does it, and hopefully it will spread to other clubs, because what we want to try and do is create an environment that everyone feels welcome to come along to a Swan District's home game. We also do, this is really easy because it's the skills clubs have. We have governance skills. We have people with disability that want to get into the governance space, want to work on boards, but they really don't have the skills or the background and how to do that. So we help upskill some people that again have an aspiration to start working on boards, and we go through the simple processes about what good governance looks like. We have our NADOC home games. We do a whole lot of work, as we said, Brightest Minds. We work with the Justice Department as well, with some boys, Aboriginal youth at risk, and we have celebrations through our match days. We've transformed our home game propositions to be far more inclusive. Again, instead of just going there and watching the football, again, a very narrow focused cohort, it's very broad, and we want to make sure we're creating opportunities to connect and build new audiences, which are the kids. So everything we do is focus around attracting young families. We also have, because we have all this activity zones, our Swans Play Zone, there's a whole lot of free activities for kids and families to be involved in, a whole lot of competitions during quarter times and half time, a whole lot of music going on there. We thought, well, we need a sensory tent. We needed a swan's nest. So it's a case, if some kids have sensory overload, need a space to reset and calm down and to re-energise and go back out, we have an occupational therapist in there that provides that service. And more people are now starting to realise, okay, that's available. It's a reason to go to watch the football now. So all of a sudden then it gives us an opportunity to talk to a whole new cohort we really haven't talked to in the past. We're talking about a whole new cohort we really haven't talked to in the past is women. It's really been a male-dominant sport. Yes, people can say we tick the boxes through history because there's the girlfriends come along or the mums come along. That's not really ticking the box. So all of a sudden now we've got a wonderful vehicle to talk to half the population we've been pretty bad at talking to in the past, which means the language we use and who we are and the symbols we use has to change, because we've really got to actively connect. So instead of saying us, because we're talking about our league men's team, it's not us. That's us. Our community football, because we've got opportunity to connect with a broad range of people out there in the community that are already connected with football, already connected with that universal language. And our multicultural programs, we really haven't touched in the past, but there's a whole wide world of opportunity out there. And employment. So if we talk about sense of self-worth, it really gets down to employment. So we try and create now with other third-party partners that can help us bridge the gap with some of the participants in our programs to get them employed. So we're working now with Midland Gate Shopping Centre. The partnership is that they will create an opportunity in one of their cafes where we can take over the cafe for the day. So then we're working with another partner to upskill some of the participants in our programs to do a barista course. And then we go in, and those participants with our programs will be running the cafe for that particular day. So it's a wonderful inclusive opportunity. That's our journey.